The Spartans said they would flinch, and they did.
Welcome back to another episode of the Spartan Dog for Life podcast. It's another Spartan Hoops takeover with my co-host Greg. Oh, Greg, I almost said Greg. I'm so sorry. Carter Elliott of Sleepers Media.
DK, come on, man. We have a bad intro last time. And then
I blew it again. All right.
Oh, man.
A big weekend. 3 games in 4 days at the PK 85. And Michigan State does what they need to do. They go 2-1. It wasn't pretty, but they took care of business when they needed to the last 2 games after kind of getting blown up by Alabama. They didn't let it quite get out of hand, but what's your biggest takeaway from the weekend that we just had?
You know what? I'd use the word perseverance for this weekend, I think. I think that, Michigan State, they had every excuse to kind of bow out in all of those games. I mean, even coming off the loss to Alabama, I think they had the opportunity to be like, all right, let's pack it in. Let's go ahead and get back to East Lansing. Let's get out of Portland in one piece, and let's just go home. But they didn't do that. They bounced back from the game, came up with 2 good wins after that. So I saw a lot of guys step up. So I think perseverance is what, the word that comes to mind for me. So, all in all, I'm happy. There was teams that did not leave Portland 2-1. There were some Villanovas of the world who left with nothing. So I'll take 2-1 every week, every day.
100%. If you had to pinpoint one player's performance from this weekend, who are you circling, whether good or bad, from the weekend?
Oh, the Moneyball legend himself, Pierre Brooks. I mean, he had himself a breakout weekend. We all knew that this guy could score. We all know he could shoot coming out of high school. We saw some flashes in a couple of early games this year. Of course, like I always mentioned, saw him have a great Moneyball this summer. So, seeing him come out, not be shy, shoot the ball, especially the best part about it is he came out and kind of had a breakout performance after having a really tough Alabama game where he could have packed it in. He could have shut it down himself and kind of shied away from the bright lights. But I thought he really did a great job of bouncing back from that game, putting it behind him. And now he seems like a player who's gaining confidence. If he misses some shots, that's fine. If he's in the position to shoot, he's going to shoot the ball. And more times out of not, I think it's going to go in. So it was really good to see him, along with some other young guys, get the opportunity to kind of step up and step into a larger role. So all in all, I think it was good for Michigan State moving forward too.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, right? We get the news early, I believe. I think it was it Wednesday or Thursday? Was it actually on Thanksgiving when we found out Hall?
I was literally making stuffing, and then I got the notification. I got the notification on my phone. I almost sent a text out to the family group chat like, okay, Thanksgiving might be put on hold this year because our best players don't have healthy feet.
It was devastating news. Malik Hall has a stress reaction, probably going to be out approximately 3 weeks, so it's going to take him roughly till maybe around Christmas time until he's back. You know that Michigan State's probably not going to be able to come in and win the PK 85, given that missing Akins and Hall, 2 of your top 6 guys, is a really difficult situation. But I also thought, like you to a certain degree, it was an opportunity for the younger guys to step up, get a little bit more run than they were probably going to get this weekend, and see what they could kind of be made of. And I think you pointed out Pierre Brooks' struggles against Alabama, 2 for 6 from the field, 5 points. He has 9 rebounds, a few off the free throw line, so there's a little stat padding there, but he just didn't look good. It was his first career start. You're expecting kind of to step into that role and at least look comfortable, and he didn't. But he bounced back in a big way. Finished the last 2 games, 15 points per game. Shot 50% from 2, 46.7 from deep on 7.5 3 field goal attempts in the last 2 games over 32.5 minutes. So I thought he really kind of rose up to the occasion. He's just such a confident shooter. He doesn't need much space. There's never a shot he's not going to like to take, which I think at this point in time, given the way that the roster's constructed with 2 of your guys out, you need a guy to be able to come in and fire some shots. I mean, we saw in some spots maybe a little hesitancy on Trey Holloman's spot. So having a guy like Pierre who's confident, who's knocking down the 3, which this roster desperately, I think, needs, I think it was just a very, very big weekend. He's the guy that I kind of circled at the top of my list too, so I'm glad that you pointed him out. Touching briefly on Trey, plus 20 on the weekend, so plus minus for over the 3 games. I thought he kind of gave a positive impact defensively. Maybe one of the better perimeter defenders on the team right now. Mm-hmm. Really locks in on that side of the ball, takes it serious, takes it just intensely. And I think that what you're seeing from him is he's starting to find a little bit of a niche. Defend, bring up the ball, run the offense. He hit a couple mid-rangers. It was nice to see him kind of let a couple shots fly. He's still a little uncomfortable taking that three on the perimeter. What do you think, just generally from what we've seen from him? Do you think he can build on this, and where you see his kind of trajectory going as the season continues?
Yeah, I definitely think that he can build on it. I think this weekend we got a chance to kind of see just exactly what you said, him embracing his role. He knows exactly what his role is. He's going to get in the game. He's going to play very tough defense. And I thought with the injuries this weekend, he was able to kind of get out there and show his offensive game as well. I think the jumper looked a lot better this weekend than it has earlier this year. And not to look ahead to next year, but it's so important that guys like Trey Holloman and those guys that take advantage of the situations where they're going to get minutes this year, because there was a outlook of this team where Jay Nakin stays healthy and all these guys stay healthy, and maybe his minutes get cut throughout the whole year. So he would go into next year not having any experience. It'd basically be like him starting over all again.
It's kind of like Pierre Brooks last year. Just
exactly.
Didn't have the opportunity.
So this like in-game experience for him and him being able to really get out there, and I think Coach Izzo trusts him as well, which he should, because he's a guy who's going to go out there, defend, give his all, and then, you'll kind of see the offensive game come along as well. So I think this coaching staff trusts him. I think he's very confident in himself and takes pride on the defensive end as well. So, I loved what I saw from him and honestly all the young guys this weekend, to be honest. I think they all took advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah, I guess let's touch on the two centers then, now that you brought it up. Out of the two of them, I thought maybe Carson showed a little bit more than Jackson. I know Jackson had like a pretty good first half. He had 6 and 5 against Alabama. He gave you some points when they kind of were struggling to score, and that was nice to see. A lot of stuff short for him. Like at the rim, he had the move. He still just doesn't look 100% comfortable. I think if you looked at any of the high school highlights that he had, he's a guy that just kind of exuded confidence on the offensive end. We haven't really seen that yet. I know that's still coming, and he's still like getting up to speed. He's got a month to do it, because the January slate of the Big Ten Conference for Michigan State is an absolute gauntlet. It starts and it doesn't stop for the entire month of January. You're going to get some tune-up games. I think it's Brown, Oakland, Buffalo's in there. There's some teams that are a little bit more tune-up in the middle of December. You have, I think, a couple early games where you're getting Northwestern, so maybe he can shine a little bit there. This is a really big month for him, because to me, you really need to figure out what you're doing with that backup center spot and who deserves the most minutes out of those two guys. I think this is the month to be able to really figure that out. Jackson has got to give you what he's capable of offensively, because I think, again, defensively, we've seen some of the deficiencies, some of the lateral lack of quickness there. And I think as we sit here now, if I had to say who is the best pick-and-roll defender out of the three centers on this roster right now, I probably would lean Carson Cooper. And that's a little bit terrifying, but I think that he moves relatively fluid. He still hasn't 100% put his feet and his hands all going in the right direction. He had a block that Alabama game where they drove on him. He was sliding. He walled up with two hands, blocked it, caught it in the air, and saved it to save the ball to Michigan State going the other way. And I was just like, there's neither of the other two centers on the roster can do that. Mm-hmm. And so I thought we saw some flashes from him. I'd like to see a little bit more. A couple nice finishes above the rim. He has that in his game. He's a guy that I'm kind of circling. I want to see him get a little bit more run and maybe mix him in with the starters in spots. Instead of maybe going Jackson right off the top, maybe you see Carson kind of get integrated into a lineup where he's not being asked to do that much. Mm-hmm. He's just being asked to fill a role. So what did you see from the two young centers? What do you want to see more of going forward? Because, again, I think we got a month here, and that rotation has got to get figured out a little bit quicker.
Yeah, for me, I'll start with Jackson on that one. For me, like you said, watching Jackson coming into into college, he was a guy who, like you said, exuded confidence. Now he's kind of playing like a guy that I want him to be confident from the moment he steps on the floor. Now it seems like in order to get his confidence going, he has to see one go through the hoop or something positive has to happen. I think he just kind of has to find himself. And, that's you expect that out of a young freshman. Not every freshman is going to come in there and just act like they're that guy, act like they can score the ball. And I think Jackson can be that guy on the offensive end. Like, as we've seen, his bag is extensive. Like, he has an arsenal of offensive moves. I just think he needs to be confident in himself, trust himself, and, just go ahead and go do it. And for Carson, I saw some things and some flashes this weekend that I really liked, and it would have been nice for the coaching staff, I think, to give him more minutes, because I think they had an opportunity to do that with games against Portland, games against Oregon as well, with a lot of size. I thought there was a lot of opportunity to get Carson some more minutes, and he's just a totally different look than the other two centers, which I think you kind of alluded to. You know, he's athletic like Mady, but he's a different type of athlete than Mady. I think he's not necessarily relying on structure and frame. He's actually like more feet, more athleticism, I think. So those guys are going to have to play. Like that is what it is. And they're definitely going to have to play if Malik Hall is going to be out, you know, for the extended period of time. However, you know, as long as it's going to take him to get fully healthy. So, you know, we're going to have to see some more out of those guys. And, you know, I'd like to see Carson Cooper get a run, because I think out of the big man rotation, I think he's the only guy who hasn't really got his, you know, full on, here's your opportunity, go take advantage of it. I think Jackson's had that opportunity. I don't know if he's necessarily capitalized. Mady had that opportunity early in the season. I think he capitalized. Now he's kind of coming back to earth a little bit. So, you know, why not give Carson a try, see what he can do out there? It's early in the season, right before Big Ten play. So, you know, I wouldn't be mad seeing Carson kind of get more of a run, and let's at least see what we have.
Yeah, I think he's going to get dusted off a little bit more in this stretch coming up. After the first two conference games, I think the schedule opens up a little bit for like basically the only part in the entire season. You got to take advantage of giving him a little bit more run and just seeing what you have. Because if you're coming into Big Ten play and Mady picks up 2 fouls quick, like, it starts getting dicey. And we saw that kind of over this weekend, him continuing to be plagued by early foul trouble. He's come down to earth a little bit. And I think that the two of us were excited to see the performances against UK Gonzaga, because we wanted to see what that ceiling, what that flash upside is, and we got to see it. And now we've kind of seen maybe the water finding its level a little bit. Mm-hmm. The Portland game, he ends up having 11 points, snags 4 boards, blocks a couple shots. But since those 2 games where he averaged 15 and 8, he's averaging 5.5 points per game and 4 rebounds and 21.9 minutes per game. So that's probably a little too low. I'd like to see him maybe more as an 8 and 6 type guy, play 25 minutes per game. I still think when I'm watching the film the second time over, the eye test to me is saying that he has a presence and a better presence than probably the other two in terms of like physicality and just impact on both sides of the glass. He's causing plays even when he's not 100% getting his hands on the rebounds on the offensive side. He's creating some disruption in the paint. And I think just Michigan State looks like a better rebounding team when he's there, because he's just more physical, he's eating more space, and he's the only range rebounder on the team, basically up and down the roster outside of maybe like Jay Nakins, who's out. So I think that we need to see a little bit more out of Mady to be able to confidently feel good about entering the Big Ten season and taking on Zach Edey and Hunter Dickinson and Cliff Amaruye and some of these other bigger, stronger centers that are there. But this is a situation where the water, again, is kind of finding its level a little bit. It's not surprising to me. I just think whatever the baseline ends up being, we need to find it maybe closer 8 to 10 points a game, 5 to 7 rebounds. It's got to be like the baseline's got to be a little bit better.
Yeah, the front court rotation is interesting in the fact, this is kind of how I look at it. Like, you know, obviously being a post player, there's kind of 3 different aspects to it. There's a guy that, you know, on the offensive end, and then you have the defensive end, and we kind of have a guy in Jackson Kohler who we can throw it into. We might trust him offensively, but defensively, he's lacking a little bit. Even, you know, defensive rebounding, he's lacking a little bit. Mady, on the other hand, defensively, I think he's a little farther along than Jackson. Obviously, he's more of a physical presence as well, but he's not a guy you want to throw it into necessarily and have him making decisions on the offensive end. Whereas you have Carson Cooper, who might just be like a little bit of both. Who knows? He might have that ability. So that's why I kind of want to see him get more minutes, because he has the athleticism. And his athleticism to use it on the offensive end and the defensive end as well. This weekend, I thought he actually surprised me. He has pretty good hands. I didn't really see that, you know, in his high school.
Yeah, the one
tournament.
AJ drop where he kind of fired a rocket in on him
DK,
a little bit.
We're not worried about that. There you go, finding the one he dropped. The one he dropped, and the rest of the ones he caught this weekend and finished.
He did catch most of them.
He catch most of them. What I'm saying is, like, Carson Cooper, I think, has a little bit of – he might have a little bit of everything. Now, I'm not trying to get everybody excited and be like, Carson's a guy who's a fully rounded, all-around game. That's not really what I'm saying at all. but I'm saying that he's a different look than the other two centers. So once you kind of get that Carson Cooper look, then you can kind of decide which center will fit in what, different games, different rotations, which center will kind of, find their niche.
Yeah, and I think that's important once we're entering back fully into the Big Ten schedule, because they're going to need all three of them. You just have to figure out when to press the button of which guy. And obviously Maddie's going to start, but when you go to the bench for the backup center, I think it really is going to be matchup dependent on who you see, and you need to figure out what exactly skill sets they excel at before you're pressing those buttons.
They got 15 fouls between the three. I know that.
Yeah, amen
that
to
ain't
that.
changing.
Amen to that. Okay, let's touch on the guards here. I think one of them had a really, really good weekend, and one of them had a really stinky weekend. So you want to go good or bad first? Where do you want to go?
Let's go negative first.
Okay, all right. We've been relatively positive on this, so
for good reason.
Yeah,
for good reason.
They graded it out. There was a grindy performance. Yeah. None of it was comfortable. All the games were late. You're with your family, like little family time. You're watching games to midnight plus.
There's other teams that were struggling with Jackson State. I mean,
got to take the shots in while you
always
can. AJ was a negative 35 on the weekend. That is bad. There's no really way to get around it. Negative 21 the Alabama game, there was large parts of that just didn't go the right way. Michigan State just didn't have the manpower really to hang with Alabama, who I thought looked really good. I mean, they played there's 3 or 4 overtimes with UNC, finally got the win there. They're athletic. I thought they did a really nice job at against Michigan State protecting the paint. This was a situation where they forced them into mid-range jump shots, and we didn't hit a ton of them. And they hung with them for a half. They gave up that 3 late. They went a little too early in the shot clock. Tyson gave it up in the corner to Brooks, who clanked it and then didn't get back on defense. Miller hits that. Instead of going down 2 at half, they're down 5. I thought that was kind of a big swing point in there, a little bit frustrating there. Then they opened it up the second half. Could have turned into a blowout. Could have really been 18-plus points, but Michigan State kind of hung in there a little bit, made it a little bit closer, And I thought that there was some nice just willingness not to let it get out of hand, and I think that shows kind of some of the DNA of what this team is. I don't know quite what to make of AJ, because he ends up with 18 points that game. Some of it came late, hit a couple threes. He didn't show up the first 30 minutes. He didn't look locked in this tournament, and I think it was extremely frustrating to watch for a guy that has been given the reins. He's an upperclassman. Between him and Malik Hall, really, to me, these are the two guys that need to be leading the team. I think Tyson Walker is a little bit more of a quieter guy. He's more in the Cassius Winston mold in terms of just he's going to let his on-the-court play speak for itself. But AJ has kind of been that vocal guy, and the body language was bad. It was a little bit of pouting, a little bit of blaming. Michigan State had a total of 27 turnovers. Hogard had 12, and Hauser had 9 this weekend. So 21 of the 27 came from those two guys. He's got to be better. He got to the free throw line a ton again. He made his free throw shots for the most part. He's got to be better defensively. I think that's the main takeaway that I had. And just mentally, he's got to be locked in. I think this weekend was too much about me instead of the team. And that has got to change going forward, particularly, we'll get to it eventually, but the game tonight, he's got to be better taking care of the ball and just generally leading the team. What did you see from him? What are your thoughts just generally on AJ?
Yeah, I really think you hit the nail on the head. AJ, just to be frank, he seemed like a guy who kind of mailed it in this weekend, to be honest with you. And he let, his play affect how the rest of the game went. And that kind of seems to be a theme but you can go both ways. When things are going good and he's in the big game and he's playing well, he's feeling himself, throwing up the goggles. I mean, he's having a good time, which he should, talking his crap, doing all that. But also in this weekend, guys are out. Malik Hall's not there. Jay Nakes is out. You got a bunch of young guys, and they're looking to you. You're the guy. You're an upperclassman. You're the point guard. You are the guy who needs to lead them, and they're looking to you. And when they look at you, your body language is bad. And guys see that. Like, DK, you play basketball. When you play basketball and you look at a guy and you see his body language and he's a leader and his body language is bad, that can irk you. That can affect you. And he needs to realize that. And I think that, coming out of this weekend, he probably looked at it, and I'm hoping that he looked at it and said, that's not who I am. And this team is looking to me to be a leader. And, he's getting scored on and he's, sulking his head, looking down. that needs to be a time where you strap up, you tie your shoes up, you strap up, and you go get a stop. Like, the first half of the Portland game was the most disappointing to me because not only was he not really taking pride on the defensive end, but he had 0 attempts until like the last 5 minutes of the first half in a game we're in a dogfight and we're down 8 to Portland. Like that's unacceptable. And I go back to one of the first exhibition games against Grand Valley. We're struggling in the first half, and AJ Hogarth has 2 shots. That's unacceptable. You got to step up in that moment and know you're that guy, and he has the ability to do it. That's the thing, and you want to see him step up in that moment. So it was honestly really disappointing for me.
I think that's the perfect word. It was disappointing for me too because you finally get your chance, right? The first 2 years, you're behind some guys, you're fighting for minutes. Now this is your team. You're running the point guard spot, and there's nobody else really, right? Like Holloman came in and gave some nice minutes. I don't know to what extent you could really lean on any type of split for that and have that go extremely well for extended minutes, nor do you want that. Like, AJ's the guy this year. This is what you've been waiting for. Make this your team and lead by example. And I thought that was the most disappointing part of it, that they needed him. They needed a better version of him because, like you said, 2 out of the top 6 guys are out. And he didn't really show up any game until the end. Yeah, he had a couple nice moves that Portland game. He had that nice body and bully to finish, and he had a nice finish again in back-to-back plays. But
the thing is, it takes that for him to get going.
Yeah,
that's the thing that kind of disappointed me. I thought he should have came out with that energy, because there was none of that in the first half. We didn't see that till late in the second half against Portland. And the thing about it is, we know AJ can do it. Like, he's a guy whose energy is infectious. Like, when he's passing the ball, when he's taking care of it, when he's making the right decision, guys are getting open shots. Everyone's having fun. Yeah. He's having fun. It's something that affects the whole team. And whether he wants to be a leader or not, unfortunately, he's a starting point guard on this basketball team. And point guards have to be a leader to some extent. And that means that you have to lead at all times. And that's not only leading by, what you say to the players and your teammates. It's leading by example. And he set a bad example this weekend.
Are you surprised the staff hasn't, at least on the sidelines, kind of come down on it? Like, I'm sure there's discussions happening behind closed doors, but I'm a little bit surprised that Izzo hasn't been more vocally upset. Maybe I'm trying to find the right word for it. You know what I mean? We've seen him go at his point guards before.
Oh yeah,
and we haven't really seen him do it this year. And the body language is bad. I'm just a little bit confused. So maybe it's the headspace that he's in. He's he's giving him a little cushion and letting him figure it out. I'm not quite sure exactly.
I mean, just based off from the outside looking in and kind of what I see on the court, I think Coach Izzo's you don't coach every player. You know how people say coaches should coach every player the same. That is the furthest thing from the truth. You got to coach different players a certain way. Different guys can take criticism a certain way. So maybe it's a situation where AJ's having this bad body language. Maybe say something to him behind closed doors, but don't go out there and yell at him on the sideline, and then it's all on TV, and then who knows, it's going around on Twitter, and the guy's already down having a bad game, and then he goes on social media and he sees this clip of Coach Izzo 2 inches away from his face, basically spitting on him, pointing at his chest like that. Yeah. You got to play certain guys a certain way depending on where they're at emotionally or in a certain headspace, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 things that he does at an elite level. To me, it's pass the ball. Mm-hmm. When he's at his best, he's spraying the ball. Everybody's getting shots. I don't know if there's too many guys in all of college basketball that find shooters' pockets as well as he does. From across court, he has passes coming over the side of his head and all the rest of it. I think that's a special skill set. I think that he's gotten a little bit too concerned about seeing the points column for himself rather than worrying about running the team and making sure everybody else is eating. I think to a certain point, like you said, it comes down to he needs to see a couple go in for himself to get going, and then he gets locked in on both sides. That can't be the case. Get locked in defensively. Have a couple of your primary scorers get eating, and then you're going to find yours, because if everyone's shooting, there's going to be way more space for your driving lanes, and that's where you're at best, which is the second part, is getting downhill and scoring. He's done a much better job. We touched on it the last time, but he's done a much better job getting to the free throw line, willing himself there, and he's shooting at a high clip this year, which is really exciting. So I think that there's a lot of positives to take away from the opening part of his season. This weekend wasn't one of them, and I really expect and hope that there's a bounce back game tonight, because I think Michigan State's been traveling a lot. They've been on the road a ton. They're kind of in a bad spot where they just probably got back, I think, probably Monday early. Now they've gotten one day. They're back on the road again. They got to find a way to win tonight against Notre Dame. We'll get into that in a little bit. But AJ is a huge part to needing to find a way to win, and he's got to be a lot better than he was this weekend. There's no doubt.
Yeah, he does. It's definitely. And I think when you mention AJ and the points kind of being the thing that drives him, we talked about it on the previous, the previous time we talked. It doesn't necessarily have to be AJ getting 17 points a game, and I think that's what make AJ happy. If he has 17 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, he's flirting with a triple-double.
Yeah.
But that's great, and there are going to be some games where he has to do that. But it doesn't have to be every game. It's really not about that. It's about running the basketball team. It's about locking in on defense, like you said, and it's about making the right play and making whether it's an assist, whether it's scoring the ball. It's all about making the right play and cutting down on those turnovers. And before the season, we talked about what we'd want to see from AJ Hoggard, and we said we want to see him shoot at a high percentage clip from the free throw line and cut the turnovers down. The free throws have been astronomically better. Turnovers are still an issue, so we're almost there.
Yeah.
We're almost there, and that's all we really need.
I can live with the turnovers to a certain degree as long as he's doing it within the context of trying to set up the offense and get guys going. The turnovers that I don't like is when it's like it's a 1-on-2, there's 2 defenders back, and he's just bowling a dude over, and you're just like, I appreciate you trying to get the rim there, but pull it back and see what you have. So, again, there's going to be some growing pains going through it. I think it's important to remember that this is, again, his first real season at the helm where he doesn't have anybody over his shoulder and it's just him. But he needs to be better, and hopefully it starts tonight. The one guy that there's just really nothing but good things to say about him is Tyson Walker, because he's been fantastic. Over the last 4 games, 19.3 points per game, 4.5 assists to half a turnover. That is absolutely disgusting. 3.3 rebounds per game, 1 steal per game. He's shooting 51.1% from 2, 38.9% from deep on 4.5 attempts, 80% from the free throw line. Is he arguably one of the top 2 or 3 guards in the entire conference right now? I think Jalen Pickett has a stake at maybe some of that. But you look up and down the Big Ten Conference this year, there's not a ton of really good guards. And Tyson Walker has kind of risen to the top of this group, and he's been everything that we hoped for last year. He's finally gotten comfortable in the system. I think moving him off ball has done wonders. He can hunt his own shot. He's not as worried about running the point, which I think is a large responsibility. And we've seen really the best version of what we can get from Tyson Walker. What do you got to say about him?
I don't know where to start with Tyson. I damn near want to shed a Spartan tear of just happiness right now, what we've seen from him this year, because this is exactly what we expected with him coming out of Northeastern. He's a guy who is wired to score the basketball, and this year he's showing that. And like you pointed out, he's scoring in a variety of ways. He's getting to the mid-range. He's shooting a 3. Down the stretch when we need buckets, we're going to Tyson Walker. We're setting a screen for Tyson Walker, and we're saying, go make a play for us. He's able to pass out of the pick and roll. He's able to score out of the pick and roll. I really don't have anything negative to say about Tyson Walker. Even if you want to go to the defensive end, he's a guy who has extremely quick hands. He might lack size and actual, strength and things like that. But as far as hands and getting up in guys and moving your feet and making it uncomfortable, he's a guy who's going to do that. He wasn't Defensive Player of the Year of his conference at Northeastern for no reason. So I really have no gripes about what Tyson has done this year. And also I think he's been able to keep it consistent through every single game. Like last year we would have the outburst at Illinois of 27-6 or 27-7, whatever the stats were in that game. And then for the next 3 games we'd be like, where's Tyson at? Now every single game we're not worried about what Tyson Walker's going to give us. We know what Tyson's going to do. And even if the shot's not falling necessarily, the attempts are going up, and they're all good shots.
Yeah.
So I love to see it from him. I think it's going to be great moving throughout the rest of the season and coming down the stretch because, like we pointed out before, in March, you need a guy who's going to be a go-to scorer. And I think Tyson has shown that he can be that guy for us. So having that go-to guy down the stretch takes a load off of the team, the coach, having to it's the last 2 minutes of the game, we're down 1. Where are we going? We know exactly where we're going. We're going to give it to Tyson Walker, probably run a pick and roll, and go have him make a play for us. So it's great to see.
Yeah, I think that if you were looking at maybe the two main questions coming into the season, it's what does the center rotation look like and who's going to be the primary scorer and closer for the roster. And we haven't quite figured out the center. That's still going to be kind of a work in progress.
We jumped the gun on that one a little bit.
We jumped the gun.
We got to take a step back. We got to say that's our fault. We might have jumped the gun just a wee bit too soon.
That's true. I think that we knew that there was some regression to the mean coming, but maybe we didn't see it as significantly as this. But I think Tyson is giving you everything that you could possibly want and more. He's been as good as advertised. And you pointed out the mid-range. His mid-range jumper right now is pure fire. He's coming off the screens. If he's got any type of space and a guy trailing him, it's a jump shot. If guys go under it, he's been stepping back and hitting the three. When he gets mismatches on a big, he's playing with them a little bit, stepping back, shooting threes. Like, he looks so much more confident. I think I will take some credit for this because I know both you and Greg were a little bit down on him just generally and just thought, I don't know if he's ever going to get to that level. I thought we would see a better version of him this year once he got into the system, but I didn't think that I saw it coming maybe to this great extent. I mean, he's been everything that we could possibly ask for, and that has to continue. But like you said, the shot volume has been there, and there's really not too many shots that I'm ever going to say don't take that. Like, if he just takes 20 shots a game the rest of the season, I would live with whatever happened with those decisions. I really would.
DK, I can promise you, as long as we're boys, I'll always be there to kind of balance you out when you say things like that. That's what I have to do. That when you say things like Tyson Walker's gonna be great, I gotta sometimes just bring you back down just a little bit, and then at times like this, you can throw it right back at me and I'll take it. But I gotta be there to be like, all right, DK, let's reel it in just a little bit. But hey, you were right. I mean, we all thought this could be this guy, but
yeah,
it's just the aggressiveness for me is what I love to see. It's not even that he's making shots. I mean, it's great that he's making shots and shooting at a high clip, but he's just aggressive. We're not getting Tyson Walker 4 attempt games. We're not going to get that throughout the whole season. He's going to get his attempts up. He's going to be aggressive, and that's what this team needs. So that's why it looks so great right now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think given some of AJ's struggles, having Walker be that steadying piece in the backcourt. We all know, we say this all the time, but guards win in March. And if Tyson's going to play like this the rest of the year, I really like the eventual trajectory. If Michigan State can get healthy, we're just praying that happens. But when you get Hall and Akins back in the fold, you've now found your primary scorer. Hall and Akins, to me, are two guys that kind of can integrate back in and then elevate what else is going on the roster. So, again, I think that this time period, you know, maybe we're lamenting not blowing out Portland when you had a shot, maybe not kind of separating ourselves from Oregon. But this is a situation where Walker is being able to get tick as the primary guy, as the closer. And I think it's a huge development for the future look of where this roster is going to go the rest of the season. So it's been pretty big. Speaking about the other most consistent guy, and this just – I mean, Joey must be the most
Jamal
just must be the most baffling player ever. He can be so mad at him. The Alabama game,
he's not baffling, DK. He's nice. That boy's nice.
He's baffling. The Alabama game, he struggled. He just didn't look comfortable against Alabama's length and defensive pressure. Turned it over a bit. Couldn't really find it. He got going a little bit on the free throw line. I think he ended up with 9 points, 6 of which came from the free throw line. But then he comes back and, you know, he puts up performances where, again, he's just stroking the nylon from deep. He's absolutely scorching from the perimeter right now. They're moving him off screens. Again, he's not spending so much time on the low block, which I don't think it was ever, like, he's really the best suited in that. I don't really want him dribbling like we spoke about the last time more than 1 or 2 times before he's putting up a shot. But he really has been, behind Tyson Walker, Michigan State's steadiest player. I didn't really see it coming into the season just because he was so up and down last year, but he really has solidified himself as a knockdown guy. He's a little bit clutch. Can we say that? Like, he's got like some clutch gene in him.
You damn skippy he does.
I've been overall very impressed with the way that he's kind of come out. And again, a couple down performances, Gonzaga won, but really that's it. He's been in double digits every game but Gonzaga, which was on an aircraft carrier, and this Alabama game where he scored 9. He's giving you what you need. He's not a guy that maybe is going to go, you know, absolutely nuclear against, you know, a top 5, top 10 team, but he is a guy that consistently has just been producing. And so you have to be thankful he came back. I know it was a bit of a 50-50 possibility at some point whether he did return. He kind of finished the year strong, and he's really carried that over, and he's been a crucial and integral part to what Michigan State has been able to do on the offensive end this year. And he's rebounding pretty well, too. He's leading the team in rebounding. So, what else can you say other than sorry, Joey, that we've been so hard on you. We needed you, and we appreciate everything you've been doing.
I appreciate your apology because I've been in the Joey Hauser camp. I'm going to take my victory lap right now. I'm telling you, we knew everyone expected Joey. If Joey didn't play like a superstar, if Joey didn't have 27, I feel like people were just at him, like at his neck, just like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yes, he has some down games, but, guys have down games. He's not a guy who's like a superstar player. He's a really, really good role player. And I think this year he's doing a really, really good job in his role. He's rebounding the ball. He's knocking down the three-pointer at a great clip. And, he's doing everything within the offense. I think that this weekend he didn't post up as much because he played some teams with really good size. So, with Bama having good size, Oregon having good size, he didn't really get those mismatches that he would get against some other teams. So I think he was able to kind of find his. And at the end of the day, Joey is a guy that's going to die for the program, all right? Joey's not worried about Instagram. Joey ain't worried about wearing nice clothes. He went out there, sprained his ankle against Bama, and he got up like a warrior. Out of everyone on this team, Joseph Jamal Hauser is willing to die for the Spartan logo, and I absolutely love to see it. And I'm glad that everyone else is coming around a little bit because they were saying some mean things about Joey. So you still had time to go to your Twitter, look up your name, look up Hauser, and delete all those old mean tweets and change them to positive ones moving forward because Joey is that guy. And I will always stand on that.
I think this is a good matchup for him tonight, too, and maybe we start shifting into taking a look at Notre Dame. I'll be honest. I watched just a couple like Matthew Loves Ball stuff, a few highlight clips. I haven't watched a full game of them, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But I don't think that this team's very good. I think they're kind of stinky.
Hey, DK, I like to throw a little money on a couple games every now and then, so I can speak from a place where I have seen Notre Dame play because I have either bet on them or against them and actually watched the basketball game. And objectively, I'm not gonna lie to you. We should win this basketball game. Notre Dame is not a good basketball program. They're coming off a double-digit loss to St. Bonaventure. They struggle with some Ken Pom 300 teams. They had a dogfight against Lipscomb and a dogfight against Radford. This is not a good basketball team. This is a game that we should win, but it is a little bit trappy. Playing in South Bend, playing at Notre Dame, who knows what they're kind of going to do. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty big atmosphere, but this is a basketball game that we should win. And if we don't, it'd be a letdown. It'd be a disappointment in my eyes.
I agree with that 100%. The average defense that Notre Dame has faced is 212th in the country. MSU's top 50. The only defense inside the top 100 that they've actually seen this year was the St. Bonaventure game where they scored 51 points on a neutral. So the offense has looked a little bit better, but they've played a bunch of junk teams. Their 2 field goal percentage is way high because they just don't have anybody that's really stopped Nate Laszewski inside the paint. I'm not sure how Michigan State's going to do guarding him. He's a guy that can get out a little bit. He can put it on the deck a little bit. I think he's going to be a little bit of a mismatch problem from some of the centers that we have. But all around, when you look at this team, they don't defend. They're a bad defensive team. The only thing they do well is not foul, and they defensive rebound well. Again, maybe that's to a certain degree to the opponent that they've seen. They play a 6-man rotation. The 5 starters are playing 33 minutes apiece, so it's going to be 2 teams that are a little bit short-handed. Notre Dame seems as if that's the rotation just because they don't have any other guys outside of like a backup big. They run their 5 starters basically in a backup big, and there's a couple guys that play some spot minutes. They play a super slow pace, like Wisconsin slow. They're 344th out of, I think it's 356 now in D1 teams. They're pretty good from the free throw line, and they don't turn the ball over. So they play a very Wisconsin style of offense. I think Michigan State's going to need to speed them up a little bit, particularly try to get out. They don't have a ton of great athletes. The one guy that I really like on this team outside of Nate Laszewski, who's like the 6'10", 6'11" big man, is J.J. Starling. We talked about this before we hopped on, but played with Jeremy Fears at La Lu. 3-level scorer, a guy that can kind of go get you a bucket. He's still kind of figuring out his role on this team as the third leading scorer, but I think that he's going to start getting going. He's projected as a potential first-round pick this year, so he's a guy to kind of maybe circle and watch. The rest of the roster, they got a couple guys that shoot, not overly athletic, and I think that this is a team where, again, if Michigan State hadn't faced so much travel at the beginning part of the season, I think the line would be a little bit more comfortable. I think it's like 1.5 favored. So it's pretty tight. It's close to a flip 'em. That's partially due to the injuries, and I think partially due to the fact that Michigan State has literally traveled more than any other team in the entire country to start the season. And so the boys need to come in mentally engaged. This is a game that they can absolutely drop. But again, I think that this would be an extreme disappointment, like you said. What are things that you're just looking for this game to see Michigan State hopefully take kind of a step forward? Or are you in just survival mode at this point until those guys come back and get healthy? And it's like, however this game goes, however ugly it is, find a way to win like you did 2 times in PK 85, and let's just keep moving forward until we can get healthy.
No, it's not a game I'm just kind of looking there to grind out and survive. I think we have a perfect opportunity to kind of bounce back because the starting slow against Portland is just not something that we can do. I think if we start slow against a team like Notre Dame, I know we said that they're not good, but if we start slow against them, it could find ourselves in a kind of a tough spot. And then, like you said, they limit possessions and they play extremely slow. So if you find yourself behind and they're just slowing down the game, it's going to be tough to get into it. So I think we have a great opportunity for a bounce-back spot in this game, especially from A.J. Hoggard. Like, this is a great opportunity for him to bounce back, show up in this game, maybe not leave a doubt throughout the game. I think this is a game we could run away with, to be honest with you. From what I've seen from Notre Dame, I think we're, on a different level talent-wise, to be honest with you. And
even with the injuries,
even with the injuries, I think we are on a different level talent-wise. Is it Leszewski? I don't want to pronounce
Leszewski,
it. Leszewski, he scares me a little bit.
Get that Polak going.
He gives me like Ryan Young at Northwestern vibes. Like, he's kind of solid, and then he comes in, plays state, and looks like the second coming of Kevin McHale. Like, I don't want that tonight. But I think we're in a really good spot to go into I guess I'll put in quotations, hostile, because it's on the road, to get a win in this game. And not every team in the Big Ten can win a game in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. It's some can't pull it out. So we don't want to be one of those teams in the Big Ten that loses. That's nasty work.
That's true. And this is the end of the Big Ten ACC Challenge, so it would be nice to finish with a dub, particularly against a team that, again, like we said, is just not up to par. They're 77th on Ken Pom. We're 30th. Go in and take care of business. Prove that you're a better team. For me, I would like to see a better start, like you said. I don't really care how it looks. I just have grown so accustomed. I feel like I've grown at least 5 or 6 just white giant hairs in my head from the way that this season has gone. Think about how many close games we've already seen. Gonzaga, Kentucky, Villanova, Oregon. Like 5 out of the 7 games.
Portland.
Yeah, Portland. 5. Like, they've all been close.
Everyone.
The Bama game and the NASU game were the only 2 that weren't close that we played so far this year. So I'm just expecting at this point for it to just be kind of a grindy, gross game. I think at some point Michigan State does create separation. The one thing that I'd like to see from this team, which they haven't been able to do, is once the separation has been created, can you hang on to the 10 or 12-point lead?
Yes,
we've gone into the shell a little bit.
Put the foot to the necks and just just end it right there. Get up 10-12, and then let's go out there. Let's push it to 20. Let's keep it, and let's keep it there if we get that opportunity, because we've seen us get. I mean, Portland game. We were up 10 with a minute left, minute and a half. I don't even know what it was, and they somehow had a layup at the end to win it. Like that's just unacceptable. Yeah, that's just we can't have that business. That's bad.
Agreed. And eventually they're going to get bit in the butt for letting teams back in it. The turnovers. Could we just touch on one thing for how good Joey has been? Can we stop having him take the ball out?
That's Tom's fault. That ain't Joey's fault.
That's fair. I agree. He doesn't look comfortable doing it. I know that's usually Malik Hall's role.
He's also a good free throw shooter, so I don't know why you wouldn't. I want him to catch the ball.
Why don't you take Trey Holloman in the game, have him inbound the ball? He's a point guard.
Yeah.
Have him inbound it. You don't have to worry about his free throw shooting. Get your guards out there, get to the line and go.
Yeah.
But that's got to change. That's just literally the definition of insanity to continue to trot him out. Everybody looked uncomfortable in that situation. Him most of all. He just does not look comfortable. He forgets that there's 2 or 3 timeouts in the game sometimes. please stop putting him in those situations. It's for the detriment of the team and himself. You're doing him no favors in that situation. Before we wrap up tonight, why don't we touch just a little bit on the Big Ten as a whole and what you've seen? I think this has been kind of an interesting year, just top to bottom across the country. I think that the top 5 teams are kind of this revolving door right now, the top 10 even. Like, it's really hard to put a finger on who you 100% trust across the country. We thought coming in that the Big Ten was going to be a little bit down, but it seems to me as if maybe the entire country is down, and therefore the Big Ten actually looks like they're positioned pretty well. If you're looking at general conferences, I think top to bottom, this is the strongest conference. Maybe there's not too many teams at the very, very top that you're sure can make national type runs. But Purdue has obviously performed very well, had a nice weekend, blew out Gonzaga, blew out Duke, won their side of the PK 85. Iowa's continued pretty well. They lost to TCU, but they've continued to play strong. Murray looks just like his brother. Chris is just basically a clone, quite literally. I guess he's a twin, so he is a clone.
He's
basically
just left-handed, but he's Keegan.
I mean, basically of his brother. We've seen some nice stuff. We saw some good stuff, obviously, in the beginning from Michigan State. Now they're kind of just hanging on until they hopefully get healthy again. What are you seeing from the conference in general, and where do you see maybe the Big Ten kind of sitting as you look across the country? And there's been so much just teams that are moving to the top 5, losing, moving to the top 5, losing. Like, what do you see from the conference this year, and what are your expectations?
So just as far as the conference, I think that this year across college basketball, there's somewhat of an opening. Like, I think that even if I said to you, I think Houston is the top team in the country. Yeah. I think they're a head above everybody.
And I'm with you on that.
And I think most people would say that. But there's also some people that would say, I don't really know if they truly are. I mean, Houston had a dogfight against Kent State, a MAC school, just last week and was able to escape. Like, there's kind of this narrative that the whole country, I don't want to use the word as bad, but it's just the whole country is just kind of okay. There's some average teams. I would put Arizona and Houston kind of in that maybe tier, but everybody else.
But the degree of separation isn't huge.
There is nothing but space and opportunity across the college basketball landscape, which we've seen, like you said, with the Big Ten. There's some more teams that can kind of put themselves in contention. I think that no one expected Purdue to necessarily look this good.
No kidding, this early. I think the most astounding part of it has just been the freshman backcourt.
Two freshman guards and the Lawyer Revenge Tour.
Yeah.
Younger brother came back to the Big Ten to let everybody know the Lawyer family name will not die. The Fletcher Lawyer is here, and Braden Smith has been great for that team, and they all fit so good around Edie. So there's a lot more teams in play, just speaking Big Ten wise, for those top spots in the Big Ten than I thought coming in.
Yeah, I think obviously Illinois, who I chose to win the league this year, has still looked good. We're going to learn more about them as they go to Maryland, I think, this Friday, and Maryland has actually shined.
Maryland.
I thought Maryland. I think I picked Maryland 11th. Like, I didn't know what to do with them, and they've come in and they've looked like very, very solid. Yeah. We'll have to see it against some more high power conference teams, but they've looked very good.
Even Penn State. Like, I don't want to play Penn State this year.
I'm scared to go on the road looking ahead to play Penn State.
I do not want to play Penn State, and I think that applies honestly to the whole conference. I mean, obviously playing at Rutgers is always tough. They got a talented team. It applies to everybody, but Northwestern and Minnesota, y'all got to ice up this rest. I don't know what's going on with them. They're
whatever happens tonight. If Michigan State doesn't go out and just hammer Northwestern at home on Sunday, I'm going to be gravely disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of business there,
please.
If you had to drop one out of the next 3 games, I would be okay dropping this one if you won the next 2, because the conference to me is more important. I think that Michigan State, if they get healthy, can be in the hunt this year. I don't necessarily know if before the season started I felt that way. I think we saw the upside. Now we're seeing that maybe they're more of a middle of the pack team without these 2 guys. Deservedly so, that they're important pieces. So it's going to be interesting. And then Indiana has UNC coming in tonight. I think UNC is all the blue bloods this year. UNC, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. Good teams, top 10, top 15. Are they top 5 teams?
You got to keep your head on a swivel. You might get hit with a Caleb Love 3-pointer.
Yeah.
That boy.
24% from deep right now for him. So I think that the conference has an ability to make a statement the next couple weeks with some of these crossovers. I think they are going to continue to build on it. And I think if the entire conference comes out looking like a top 1 or 2 conference in the country, it's only going to lend itself to allowing more teams into the tournament this year. Again, they got 9 last year if we count the play-in, which we obviously do because we made it the year before. But with Indiana, I believe that was 9. So I thought there was going to be more like 7 teams this year, 8. But it again looks like they're in a position to maybe put in 9 teams again into the tournament. So I think it's going to be a really fascinating year as a whole in the conference. We're going to get some early tests for some of these teams as early as this Friday, like we said, Illinois, Maryland. So we're gonna know a lot more about these teams that goes on. But to me, Michigan State has shown the upside. If they can find a way to hang on and survive the next couple games, get into that soft part of the December schedule, get healthy, get guys in roles, I think that I'm very excited to see what January and beyond looks like. I
need health. If I could reach your hand right now, I'd start a prayer circle for help. We have to get help.
I mean, we're old. We're over the top, but I've never had any foot problems. I will gladly trade feet. If Akins needs my foot, if Malik Hall needs my foot, I will give it to them.
I will give it and not think twice. I think we need – you know how Tom Brady takes Wednesdays and Thursdays off? I think we just need to let guys take some days off. Practice, smack this. Let them rest. Get in the hot tub, get in the cold tub, get your little massage on, maybe a little foam roll. But I need health from this team. Health is key because the depth isn't there. So we need health.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Again, I'm David Klein of SpartanHoops.com. Carter Elliott of Sleepers Media. I'm so sorry. Again, botched the intro, but
if we
were talking smack about Greg. That's the whole reason why his name came up. We were talking smack about
If we get invited back, I need this third intro to be knocked out the park.
Can you just do the intro? I think that at this point, you need to just take the reins. You introduce me, and then I'll do the rest of the show from there. It might work out better. I think it'll be.
I want to lift you up. I want to up your confidence. I want to up your confidence.
It started good, and then I called you Greg.
It's okay. We finished strong.
We're gonna get better.
All right.
All right, again, thanks to Brian for letting us come on the show. And, again, to everybody out there listening. Big game tonight, Michigan State at Notre Dame, 9:15. It's on ESPN 1 or 2? Do you know?
2.
ESPN 2. I guess we will see you guys again soon. Go green as always.
-1.5. Hammer it.